little minute here. Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to the TUG Virtual Livestream, the second one, more about Marriott. Today we have a great panel of guests joining us today. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. We're going to go ahead with some introductions, and we'll start kind of going clockwise of what we are on the screen. So Sean, you want to go ahead and kind of just give a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure. This is Sean Klingenpil, currently in Ko'olina, Hawaii right now at the resort. First purchased Marriott in 2007 in Phuket. Actually went to Phuket in March of 2007 with my daughter. Enjoyed the resort, and we went back again in June, July of 2007, and that's when I bought from the developer. I bought resale in 2011, 2014, and 2018. So I'm up to I'm a little over 48,000 annual points. So enjoying the Marriott. Looking for potential 1 year in a Marriott when I retire here in a few years, and just see what happens.
Cool. Sounds awesome. All right, Stephen.
Hi, this is Stephen Ting. I've been a Marriott owner since 2006 with my first purchase in Las Vegas Grand Chateau. Bought that from the developer, and since then I've acquired a couple additional weeks, a Ko'olina week purchased from the developer, as well as some points purchased from the developer, as well as resale. I've also have some Maui weeks that I did purchase resale. So I've done all transactions possible with Marriott, and so it always makes for an interesting conversation when I speak with a salesperson during the visits with them. So glad to be here and to answer any questions that I can.
Cool. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Todd, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for inviting me today. Todd Kegler. I live on the East Coast. Our first Marriott purchase was 2005 in Phuket, Thailand, from the developer. Later that year, we also purchased a Aruba Surf Club week. We've enrolled both in Destination Club points. And I also do a lot of traveling with Bonvoy points. I travel a lot for work as well. So we try to combine Bonvoy points and Bonvoy usage. As I shared with Jeremy, my goal is never to pay for a plane ticket or a pleasure night in a hotel or anything we like to do for fun. I like to leverage all the programs to travel on my work travel or timeshare weeks.
Cool. So really your only expenses is ultimately your maintenance fees?
Yeah, maintenance fees, our time there. And, it's kind of a game. Our kids are grown, so we're able to travel in shoulder seasons, which helps a little bit and have a lot of flexibility.
Cool. All right. Dan, you want to go ahead?
Hi, everybody. This is Dan Sims. I'm from Bayshore, Long Island. Our first purchase was from the developer, Desert Springs 1, back in 1994. Subsequently, we added another every year program at Ocean Point. Right after 2001, I was actually able to get a pre-construction price because when I went to visit, there was just the Sailfish building. So that might have been my best buy. That also trades for the most destination points, which is great. Then about 5 or 6 years later, we added the every other year program at Grand Chateau. And what was interesting about that was prior to that, they used to charge a little premium for every other year. So if a full year was $32,000, you'd have to pay like $18,000 for an every other year. And when they dropped that provision, I thought that was a good time to buy that property. Then when they dangled the new requirements of getting to chairman, I did a hybrid purchase also from the developer. So we purchased 2,500 trust points along with Beach Place Towers, which we had traded into a couple of times and really enjoyed. And I like the fact that the standard for chairman is 15,000 now, but they've been nice enough to grandfather me at 13,300 and enjoy all the benefits of being a chairman. We use the Pulse property in Manhattan like a pied-à-terre. We use it probably about 8 to 12 nights per year because it's inexpensive and we can be very flexible in going in there. It's only a 1-hour train ride and then a 10-minute walk from Penn Station. So as an alternative to buying a second place in Manhattan, it makes so much more economic sense the amount that I could buy in Manhattan wouldn't be much larger than a shoebox. So we're thrilled with the program. We've actually made a game of it, and we've stayed at 40 of the different properties at least once. And almost like a bingo scorecard, we'd like to hit them all eventually.
Perfect. Yeah. Great way to maximize the points there in Manhattan, right? Okay, Carlito, you want to go ahead with your intro?
Yeah, hi, I'm Charles Salter. It's my real name. Carlito on TUG. And I just wanted to share that I've been in timeshare since about 1998, originally with Diamond Resorts. Well, they weren't Diamond Resorts back then. They were called Epic Resorts. I got into Marriott in 2002, and I've never bought any of my timeshares at one of those high pressure sales. I've always done all of them over the phone from my home. And I have found that to be much, much more convenient. And I get to make a decision one way or another over a period of time, not all in one 4-hour stressful situation. So I own that Carolina initially, pre-construction. So that picked me about, Marriott, that would have been about 2002, 2003. I also own at Aruba Surf Club and Ocean Point. Oh, the other thing is I never saw any of my properties before I bought them. All right. So
Sight unseen, right?
Sight unseen.
Yeah.
So, but Aruba and Ocean Point, I bought them because I knew I was going to be retiring. And so I wanted some more time. And I just didn't want the points, because the points seemed to be very expensive to me. So about 2 years ago, I was able to go ahead and I was going to buy resale, which is the TUG way to go. But then someone said, hey, you know what? I wonder what Marriott is offering for these things. So as I was going with Marriott, I kept, I was talking to the salesperson, and he'd call me and we'd go back and forth, and I was interested, but still seemed to be too much money. So then I realized, the points piece was more expensive. And I looked at what it was on resale on Red Week. I look at it on Red Week and I said, huh. So Marriott kept changing the offers. And so they got to an offer. They said, well, you can go ahead now and you can pick a week like Aruba and combine it with another week of your choice. So I looked to see which one of these which one of these resorts has the most points for a 2-bedroom platinum, and I chose Ocean Point. So my 3 weeks come up to about 13,475 points, and I really love it. And I think that anybody who's interested in knowing about how I did that, or anybody who's interested in any of the other properties. I've been to several properties. I live close to Desert Springs and Marriott, was it the other one? Shadow Ridge and Newport Coast. Newport Coast is probably about 10, 15 minutes from me. So there it is.
Perfect. So it sounds like here from a number of points perspective, it sounds like Sean kind of has this all beat, right? 40-some thousand points or something like that.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's a lot. Okay.
They're coming in handy right now.
Okay.
So that maintenance fee.
About $21,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so just kind of introduce myself. I'm Jeremy. We bought our first week with Marriott, actually resale, back in 2007 at Grand Vista. We had been to a number of timeshare presentations, actually a couple before that, and we'd always it sounded great. We loved the program. We liked the resorts. They were both actually all of our tours were in Orlando by that point. And then found TUG, did a lot of research, and we ended up buying resale there. And then that was before the Great Recession, as they call it. And then that came, and then we picked up a second week at Harbor Lake. So our first one was Grand Vista, second one was Harbor Lake. in 2009, and actually resale prices continue to go down. I thought we got a great deal on that, and then a few years later, I mean, it was a gold Harbor Lake week and could have gotten it even cheaper, but but they've worked out great. We pretty much primarily trade through Interval International, even though our weeks are enrolled. They just don't really give us enough points to. It would take most of the points from both of our weeks to go to a lot of places that we can trade almost even Steven into another resort. So if we're wanting to go to Hawaii, it doesn't make sense for us to use points. We just basically deposit our 2-bedroom and trade it even. We were able to travel in shoulder season, so it seems to work out well for us. And then since then, we've also bought 2 Vistana weeks as well. So we kind of use those to complement our other ownership. So yeah, so there's our introductions there. And let's take a look at a couple of these chat items. I saw some here that were interesting. Looks like Barry Parsons said he also bought that Grand Chateau every other year when they dropped that premium pricing for those weeks. So I think prior to that, I think they charged, what was it, about 60% of the annual price for an every other year. So it was really like a 20% premium almost, right? So by dropping that premium, that was a pretty good deal. Let's see what else we got here. Hello, Sandy from Napa Valley, Tens Pro. We got so Sandy is she was on our last live stream. Sandy VHC. She's not a Marriott owner. She never had the urge to drink the Kool-Aid, right? We all drank the Kool-Aid, and that Kool-Aid tastes pretty good. I'll admit it. It's pretty good Kool-Aid. Just listening to see what she's missed out on. They were definitely a little bit late to the points game. A lot of other properties were getting into points before Marriott was. But we do have our first question here for the panel. Question for the panel: how the current issue, and more importantly, the governor's slow response to open up the blue states affects the timeshare and travel industry. I don't know if we'll get into the political comments on that, but obviously, I mean, opening up the timeshare or the timeshares. Timeshares are going to be hurt for a long time, right? I don't think even if they did decide, hey, everything's open, I don't see people just clamoring to go back real quickly. Travel's going to be down for, I think, quite a while. But anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Well, one philosophy that I have is to pull points from future years, so that if I ever have to make any cancellations, and even if it fell into that holding period, I have all of next year to make my plans. Mm-hmm. So I haven't been stressed out whatsoever, even though it looks like the plans that I have this year are probably going to fall through. They get banked into the account, and they're all 2021 points anyway. So from a personal standpoint, I think that's the best way to go, because I see some people in November and December desperately on Facebook maybe looking for some people that can take some points off their hands. Mm-hmm. And I'm afraid sometimes they don't get rid of them, and it's a complete loss.
Yep.
Well, I think also one of the benefits behind being at one of the upper tiers is you have an extended amount of time to utilize those points. So if you're presidential level or chairman level, and I'm saying this so that people who have been on the fence about thinking about what they want to do, in this particular type of situation, you have, if you bank your points, you have all the way until, I think it's, if you're presidential, I have until, I think it's June or July of 2021 to use those points. Because I'm still on I still have points that I banked from 2020. All right, so I've got here, and then I haven't even touched my 2021 weeks. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the things that people need to do is, you can go move forward a little bit, all right, but also if you're banking, all right, you'll have more time to use some of those points.
Yeah, I think one of the things I see on social media a lot is, people frustrated. They see airlines giving refunds. They see hotels that are refunding non-cancelable reservations, and they want to know why Marriott Vacation Club is not doing the same thing. And Vacation Club inventory is not elastic like like everybody else's are, those others that are giving refunds. And I think that, for us, we had to cancel 2 trips. We canceled a trip to Aruba we were doing in June. We were also going to another timeshare we have in Cabo San Lucas. And it was very disappointing to cancel those. We had to downgrade those because when we had to deposit the interval, we'll never get back to where we were going. And I think some things are just going to have to be written off a little bit this year and put in perspective of what's going on around the world. It's just something we have to absorb. And I think that, some of the things we have with the holding points that, like Dan was mentioning, we have through 2021 to use ours because they were borrowed ahead. And that's just what we have to do this year. It's not pleasant, but we just have to get through it and look to next year.
I would say anybody that's concerned about losing points this year, that they may not be able to use them, is all you need to do right now is book a reservation within 60 days, any reservation using your points, and then turn around and cancel it the next day, and you get an extension all the way to December 31st, 2021, although it will be limited with a 120-day holding account, but it is a way to extend your points out till December 31st, 2021.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool trick to take advantage of if you know about it, right?
Right.
And we're here to inform. Okay, so let's see. Here we are. We got a few more people who joined in. Hello there, John. We have another question here. Anybody have any question or I guess feedback on if what the views are of an impending points program to include both Marriott and Vistana programs? I'm not sure. Do we have any other Vistana owners on the panel? I don't think we do. So we actually own both Vistana and Marriott. So, that kind of, it's out there. I mean, what's going to happen? Are they going to kind of just open it up? There's been a lot of discussion of if they'll allow Vistana owners to enroll their weeks into Destinations Club. Will there be some type of point trading maybe at the 6-month mark where people can use their star options to book Marriott and Marriott can use Destination Club points to book Vistana? So, I mean, it's really anybody's guess. And now with kind of everything that's going on now, I mean, will they put that on the back burner or will they try and accelerate it to get some type of joint program where they can maybe make a quick dollar on enrollment fees, right? So I guess it's really kind of anybody's guess right now. And you never really know what anybody's going to do. It's kind of like the cruise lines right now with Disney. Everybody keeps asking, when are they going to open, right? When are they going to start cruising again? Who knows, right? Anybody's guess. There's no real, no idea. Let's go here. Thoughts on the points skim? That was a bit of a turnoff. Your opinions? I don't think anybody really likes the point skim. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that when you trade your week into points.
Yeah, the only I would say owning at Aruba and Phuket. Aruba was enrolled in destination clubs first. You could pay the fee and get it in destination clubs. Points, and we avoided that because we didn't like the point scheme. We were looking ahead to how they were valuing our our Aruba week, and said it just wasn't enough. And then a few years later, they allowed us to enroll Phuket, and frankly, just having the Aruba week wasn't going to be enough for us. And then when they added Phuket to the mix, those 2 weeks together allow us to do a lot. And so we did enroll at that point. And when we want to use both weeks and we need to borrow from the future, we can lock off Aruba. It just gives us a lot more flexibility, but we can still go to Aruba if we want to. So just paying that $600 gave us a lot more ability to do what we want year to year. And we like it, but you're right. It's not enough points to go back to Aruba if we turn it into destination club points.
Yeah, this is Stephen here. With regard to the point scheme, I think the point scheme is actually fine. I mean, you look at what you're getting versus what you're sacrificing, and what you're sacrificing is relatively small compared to all of the additional benefits that you get. I mean, if your purpose is to go back to your resort, then exchanging your week for points is not the play to take. So really, you want to exchange for points when you want the flexibility, when you want to add on to an existing week, or when you want to try another destination. Right now with, COVID-19, I would love to have my, fixed Maui weeks in the program so I can exchange them for points and have that additional flexibility rather than dealing with interval. But, to have that, I'd be glad to pay that 10% point skim or whatever it happens to be. I think right now it falls between 5% to 10%, depending on the week that you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the way I view it is it's so insignificant. I don't even understand why it's an issue because of the fact that you can stay at your resort. You bought that particular timeshare spot, all right? So you can stay there and do what you want. It's not costing you. There's no skim for you. Now, if you want to use the benefits of and go to points, then yeah, well, you're going to pay maybe a little higher price to stay at somebody else's place, all right? Just like when you go to Interval International, they charge you, what is it, $100, whatever?
$150 exchange fee, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't really, it's really a non-factor. As a matter of fact, I belong to Diamond Resorts. You don't know about a place, all right, about how many points a place, all you know is the points. You don't know what the other place was. They don't, because it never was there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what people I hear, we've had some big, huge discussions on the skim on TUG, and I'm like, what is the problem? As long as they're not charging me extra for what I already have, no problem. Now, if you do have multiple properties, what's really, really nice is if you put one in, all right, and get the points, all right, and then you stay at that one place. So if I stay at Ko'olina and I want to extend my stay at Ko'olina, I love being able to take that Monday through Friday and add 5 extra days on it real cheaply, all right? Or make sure I end on a Sunday, and add on another 5, that's a great deal one way or another. So I don't know. I think it's a non-factor.
Yeah,
Well, I guess one question that I would have is just for clarification that on a point skim, a given room for the entire year is going to have the same point value. It's just how they move around, correct? So like Phuket, I'm able to enroll in points on a platinum week and now book a gold week on points. To where if I was only dealing with weeks, it gives me more flexibility to get in by having the points.
Yeah, we're actually going to Maui in February of next year. We elected points for 2021, and we got a 1-bedroom oceanfront. It's just 2 of us traveling. If we wanted to go to Maui without Destination Club points, we would have had to exchange a unit through Interval, give them a wide range of when we wanted to go, and maybe get a parking lot view. So it was more points than a week in Aruba would have been, but we're getting to go and we got to choose. So,
right. Exactly.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. Also, when you're trading down in seasons, you get change back.
Mm-hmm.
If you're participating in one of these less than 60-day bookings, you're getting even more change back. As a chairman, I'm getting 30% off, and I would say that that happens a good 50% or more of the point exchanges that I do in a given year. So it's my 13.3 really translates probably closer to 16 or 17,000 points.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So there's like pluses and minuses, but I think like everybody's saying here, the pluses seem to kind of outweigh the minuses there, and you just kind of need to look at it of the extra benefit you're getting from that, right? Let's see here. We have a question. If there's anybody from Europe, I don't think we actually have anybody on the panel from Europe, but there was somebody. John here is from the UK, so welcome, John. Thanks for joining us.
I know Barry Parsons in the chat is from Europe as well.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. Barry's in here from the UK too. Okay, so let's see what we got here next. Somebody here made a reservation for Ko'olina for the week of Thanksgiving. Thoughts? They don't seem to care if they lose the week, but what are the thoughts on that? I think, obviously, the earlier you can, if you were wanting to salvage something, if you're a member of Interval International or you're willing to trade with Interval International, the earlier you know that you're not going to be able to go, definitely outside of 60 days, you probably want to deposit that or even lock off and deposit that, right? So you can get get 2 weeks for one through Interval, but I'm not sure about the ability to travel to Colina in Thanksgiving. Does anybody here have any thoughts on that? Maybe Sean, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think, I mean, as long as you're willing to fly, the resort will be open. I don't see any way it's not, unless you had a second wave of COVID that locked things down. But I would, you've got to be good to go, and Thanksgiving is my thoughts.
Yep.
Yeah, I think with the general tenor of the country right now, as far as this stay at home, people are more and more wanting to get out and try to resume their lives and recover their income. So Thanksgiving will probably be, or the week before Thanksgiving by that time. I think there'll be pressure to force the country to be open. And, I start seeing more things now where they're saying, hey, when you're looking at the number of deaths, and the number of deaths is very, very small. All right. And then the more people that they find that have had this virus, all right, that have recovered, because it's like in the 90s. I've seen some places 96, 95. Even in New York, I read about New York from the people that they tested, that number of people who have actually, perished is very, very insignificant. We're talking about 0.01. I mean, so, and they're saying that these numbers are no different or even less than what flu has been. And this was recent. This is not talking about, and this is with the most recent numbers that are out there. So I don't know. I think you're going to see people start to resume their lives more and more. And because there's going to be pressure on the government, and there's going to be more data by Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think
won't be a vaccine.
Between now and Thanksgiving, I mean that's like an eternity, right? Just from a month and a half ago till now, it seems like an eternity. So I think there's going to be so much more information out there. We'll have to see kind of how it all plays out. Let's look at did anybody else have anything on that before we'll go on to the next comment here? This is Barry, actually. You were talking about him earlier. Unlike the other Marriott Vacation Club resorts, there's not really much of a point skim week in Phuket. Just Christmas and New Year's, and I guess also Chinese New Year. So it seems to be the case. I don't know, Sean or Todd, if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's what kicked us over to go on the Destination Club points is when they added Phuket. And, as a percentage of actual value for the week, we get more value out of Phuket than we do our Aruba week. Ironically, we've never converted for Bonvoy points, but we get terrible Bonvoy point value for our Phuket week. I think it's like, we have a gold week there. I think it's like 55,000 Bonvoy points, which would be one night in the hotel there. So, but they do give you great value for Destination Club points.
Cool. Let's see our next one here. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask Todd to talk. Could he expand a little bit more? Because I think you said something about Bonvoy points and how you utilize them. Because most of the time on TUG, we talk about, hey, when you buy resale, that's a good deal because you don't have to worry about the Bonvoy points because they're insignificant and that they lose their value. So how do you maximize on your Bonvoy points?
Well, actually, what I shared with Jeremy was I travel a lot for business as well. I earn Bonvoy points with the credit card. So I kind of try to combine those things together, with travel packages that through the Bonvoy program to get, frequent flyer miles and 5-night hotel stays that we'll add to our timeshare weeks when we're in different destinations. Sometimes we'll use the Bonvoy points just for a vacation. Last year, we used them to convert 2 travel packages and went to the St. Regis in the Maldives for a week and included 2 business class tickets on Qatar Airways from New York. And that was all included. So they're really great to leverage if you maximize earning them. And there's so many programs out there, credit cards and stuff, that you can be so diverse that you're not putting enough into one program to get any one benefit. So I think you really have to pick the Destination Club points, Bonvoy points, or and then 1 or 2 airlines and really maximize your earning potential there. Because if you get too spread out, you're never going to accumulate in any one program enough to do anything.
Now, can you just give us an example of how many points you got those business class tickets to go to to go with your
Yep,
Maldives?
Well, it's funny. These are going to be before. I'm looking at the current chart for travel packages now, and actually, I was able, because we went in August of last year, I was actually able to get these on the old travel package charts, which the new ones are not nearly as guest friendly.
Generous?
I would say. Would you say?
Generous, not as generous.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Mhm.
I think our tickets were 120,000 miles round trip, and so I think it was about 430,000 Bonvoy points I needed to get the hotel stay and the tickets. And that was with work travel and credit card earning and hotel charges, I think that was probably about 2 years worth of earning Bonvoy points.
Great.
Cool. Okay, let's see what we got here. What we got up next here. So this is actually my wife. We've had to cancel a couple of trips ourselves, just kind of talking about this whole situation we're going through right now. And we're basically just looking at stuff closer to home, right? I mean, we're not looking at places where we have to fly to necessarily. We actually had a cruise lined up for August that we've canceled since then. We actually still have our airline tickets through American, which is actually flying on BA, British Airways. So it's just kind of a waiting game, hoping they actually cancel the flight so we can take a refund instead of having to take a credit. But we can always take a credit if we have to. So,
Jeremy, I think that's a really big point you just mentioned, because right now a lot of airlines, and I think JetBlue, I'm reading, is one of the worst, are canceling flights at the very last minute. They want the passengers to call and cancel first, because that way they only have to give the passenger a credit. If the airline cancels, then you can have the airline give you a refund. So it is a waiting game. You're right, but you can actually cancel up to the day before. I mean, they want you to blink first is really what it's going down to, and you can cancel for a number of reasons. One, obvious. I mean, you can get a refund for a number of reasons. Obviously, if your flight's canceled, if they put a schedule change in place, and the airlines have different rules for those, but you can look and see what happened with yours. And many times, if you had a nonstop flight and now your schedule includes a stop, even if it's within their schedule change rules, you can still get a refund.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Yeah, they haven't. Our flights haven't budged. Like, it's the same times, everything. There's nothing's changed. So let's see here. But
I was going to say that's causing a lot of people that are going to Hawaii trouble, because Hawaiian Airlines is still flying to Honolulu, and people just don't want to go there right now because of the 14-day quarantine. So there's this big conflict right now that their flight still exists, so they can technically fly there and then do what?
Sit in the resort, right?
Right.
Like,
now
Sean.
stay in your room.
Yeah.
You're not even allowed to get out of your room.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They actually sent so far they've sent 19 people back out of the state because they broke curfew or they broke quarantine.
Wow. Yeah, so they're serious about it. Next up, we have here, I agree with Todd, feel Marriott has managed things well, have 2 years to use through interval, the 2 weeks that they had to cancel. Yeah, so if you have to deposit in interval, you get kind of like a 2-week extension on there. So definitely a way to take advantage of that. Andy Cooper here says, I don't think we have any international people on this panel, but if anybody in the chat wants to talk to this, what do they think about the Marriott international owner ripoff? I think that's actually maybe referring to there's like an additional international owner's fee that Marriott kind of says it's to use to help manage international owners and translation and stuff like that. And well, I'm not too sure I really agree with it. I mean, it's kind of a global market, and doesn't really cost them that much more to work with certain international owners. Maybe they'll work on trying to get around that kind of going forward. So,
do we know what owners actually have to pay that? I mean, I don't pay that in Phuket. I don't pay that in the U.S. that I'm aware of.
Yeah. So are you based out of a U.S. address though? Like when
Yes.
your ownership. So I think that's what it is, right? So anybody who's like in Europe, a lot of the European owners, if they own, I don't know if they own in Europe and they're European if they pay that, but if like they own Hawaii or they own Orlando and they live overseas, there is an international owner's fee. I think it's like $129 or something. It's actually fairly significant, $109, something like that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think that's basically if you're international. So anybody outside the United States. Now I don't know if like I said, if you own in Europe and you live in Europe, or you own in Asia and live in Asia and you own Thailand. I'm not sure if it applies there either. Somebody else had to cancel their Colette tour recently, and they've had the points returned as 120 days. So I guess they're doing that with Colette tour cancellations as well, putting that into the 120 day. What do they call those? Holding account points. So is there any concern that they'll not be able to use them once again for a Colette tour Explorer packages? So I think some of the concern there is, I think certain Explorer packages aren't eligible for certain Colette tours, right? Or certain Explorer package tours. So if you have points in a holding account, I guess there's some concern there that you may not be able to turn around and reuse them for what you canceled.
Correct. And you may not have availability within that 120 days. As way, that's going to be the biggest challenge.
Yeah, most definitely.
Your options on a holding account are going to be limited going forward, just because of supply and demand. Yep,
most certainly. Okay, so the next one here, for everyone that has Marriott points, you own underlying fixed deeds. What happens if Marriott goes belly up? So I think my thoughts on this, I mean, obviously, Marriott kind of has two initial programs, or two actual underlying programs here, right? They have the trust points, where it's a collective trust of all kinds of properties, all of their properties that are in their system. And you basically buy a deed that is trust points. And then they have their weeks kind of where they have the points overlay on top of that. So I think if Marriott goes belly up, I mean, the actual underlying timeshare resorts are still there for the weeks owners. So if the exchange program goes away, ultimately you still have whether it's a fixed week or a floating week. But somebody is obviously going to step in and manage that, right? So, I mean, I'm not sure that there's really any two concerns there with not being able to use your weeks or your points. But what are other people's thoughts on that?
Well, I do know that the general perception out there is that points are air, because I've dealt with this a lot when it comes to Diamond, and that people feel that when you have points, it's not tied to real estate. And it is. I mean, they are tied, just like if you had weeks, it's just done in a different manner.
Yeah, it's just that trust, right?
Yeah, so, a lot of people feel they're more secure if they own the week, because the week is something it's concrete to them. All right. So, but when we're turning our week into points, all right, it's actually the same type of deal. All right. Your week is worth points. So I just think that, everybody worries, well, hey, if something happens to the company, at least if I have weeks, I know I have something. All right. And hey, I've seen many people lose their house in bad times if you're not paying the bills. So it really is not that big a difference, if any at all.
Yeah, certainly. You just need to make sure there's somebody there to kind of manage it all for us, right? Take care of the resorts and manage that exchange program that exists there. And if it's not Marriott, it'll be somebody else, right? Because, but I'm not too sure that we have a concern about Marriott going belly up. They may need to infuse a lot of cash and go into a lot of debt, and maybe even have their stockholders switch, right? I mean, if they have to declare bankruptcy, I mean, but obviously there will be some type of restructure there, I think. And we may even see more consolidation in the industry, right? I mean, who knows?
They can raise their maintenance fees.
That's true too. Yeah, just raise the maintenance fees and make it 100% profit, or raise the management fee, right? Instead of 10%, make it 15%. Yep. So let's see here. Let's get down. We're quite a ways back in the chat here. So some concerns on the future of maintenance fees. I think we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, right? Is there going to be a concern with maintenance fees going up, or even potentially going down? With obviously the resorts aren't operating, right? So how is that going to impact maintenance fees in the future?
I mean, is there anybody with experience from the last downturn that can maybe? I don't know what happened to. I wasn't in as far as I am now, so I'm not familiar with what happened.
Yeah, maintenance fees still went up.
I think the difference is here is lack of use versus the economic downturn. And I know that when there's been hurricanes and people just haven't been through the Caribbean or through the Carolinas, you lose use of your week, and you still have to pay your maintenance fees. People talk about wanting to get a refund. I think the best we can hope for is a limited or no increase next year, possibly a decrease, but this year's kind of set, and the boards set the maintenance fees anyway, and we can work to influence them.
Yeah, the maintenance fees ultimately there for operation of the resort, right? So there's still you still have underlying taxes. Orange County, Florida isn't going to want their taxes just because the resorts were closed, right? So for all those resorts in Orlando, so you still have to pay the taxes, you still have to pay the insurance. There's other costs, electricity, even with the resorts closed, right? They do save a lot on labor. I think Disney kind of talked about they're looking at this of maybe providing some type of rebate or credit on next year's fees. But I think they need to be careful not to do too much, because next year you might see a lot of people that don't pay their fees, right? Have almost 30 million unemployed right now, a huge unemployment rate. That may not bounce back, and a lot of those people, it may not be, 30 million, that may not be your traditional timeshare owner, but a lot of them will be. And some households, they may even have pay cuts and stuff like that too, right? So their first priority is not going to be paying their timeshare maintenance fee, especially when they're not necessarily even thinking about travel at that time, right? So.
Yeah, I'm going back to one of my first weeks, Grand Chateau, which I purchased in 2006, and looking at historical maintenance fees, from 2007 to 2008, maintenance fees went up 5%. From 2008 to 2009, it went up 4.5%. So I would still expect, fees to continue. Life goes on, costs continue to go up. There might be a small dip in, some of the, staffing fees or maybe some of the cleaning fees, but I would still plan for anywhere between a 3 to 5% bump in next year's fees.
Okay, yeah, definitely good to have that perspective.
And then also you've lost some of the profit generation here. The restaurants, the stores, so they're actually losing a little bit of profit mechanism to generate some revenue here at most of the resorts as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's see here. Here's a question here from Andy Cooper. I think the Europe will be okay, and they're still about half the cost of U.S. fees. So, not sure that may have been in response to something else. I'm not exactly sure here. So, somebody going to Colette for their fourth Colette tour. That's where John was going. So, unfortunately, it sounds like he had to cancel that, right? So, unfortunately, let's see what else we got here. Will Marriott resell deeded weeks without requiring the purchase of destination club points at the same time? I'm not sure. I don't know that they actually require it. I think you can buy a resale deeded week with. Now maybe they're asking about the ability to purchase a resale week that is enrollable in the Destinations Club Points program without that additional additional Destination Club Points purchase. So I think that's kind of what they're asking here.
Yeah, well, from what I've seen, and from my experience, that Marriott does resell some of their weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I had the choice of Aruba or St. Kitts, and to buy them as weeks, and then I could also buy a resale week that Marriott had. And with the resale week, they made it as a package deal. So my Aruba week was the equivalent of you buying points. And then the resale week was the extra points. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that they did was I was able to buy 2 deeded weeks, all right, that were already enrolled. And so that was what Marriott does, and they still do it.
Okay. Yeah, that's because I think the Aruba is kind of still outside the program a little bit, right? They're only essentially enrollable. So I think the question here is though, do you think they will just if you see a week that is just So if you buy an Aruba week, it sounds like you can enroll that right away without an actual points purchase, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, but the question is, would they sell just a Hawaii or a Hilton Head Island resale week without that additional hybrid purchase, right? Do you think they would still allow that week because it was purchased through Marriott resale? Is there any thought there that they may allow those to be enrolled? I'm not too sure about that. I think their primary focus is on selling points, and they kind of use that as an incentive, right, to get you to kind of push you over the edge of buying those points. Okay, let's see here. We got Mr. Ting. So, Stephen, can you talk about vacation point exchange, right? This is one of the items we had on our agenda if we didn't come up in the chat. So you want to give some thoughts on that or talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So vacation point exchange was, something that was formed after, talking with Greg P. He had a spreadsheet of things, and I thought, well, you know what? How else can we fill this need to, fill this gap for point rentals? And really, it really is just a simple website where people will just post what they have. For those that haven't been to the site, vacationpointexchange.com. It's essentially a small classified site. What I have on there is, free listings for people that want to, post their points for rent. Listings are available for 3 weeks at a time. So after 3 weeks, the listing drops off. The idea here is that, many of us are lazy. We'll post our points for rent, we'll rent out the points, and then we never follow up to take down our ad. And so right now I just have it to automatically drop off after 3 weeks, because usually within, 1 to 2 weeks is when most ads tend to be rented out. So right now, as I mentioned, it's free for people to post their ads, free for people to sign up and respond to ads. Right now, the site is, 100% run off of donations, as well as people that pay their verified seller fee. So that has enabled me to essentially run this site out of pocket without having to charge for it. But once again, it is, very basic. It's just a way to connect with people. For those that are, there's always concern about what about scams? How do we prevent scams on the site? And with scams, just like with everything on the internet, you have to beware. I mean, it is buyer beware in this case. So once again, you want to vet, who you're sending money to, talk to them. If the language seems kind of off, send me a message. I will, I'll look them up, see what I can find on the internet about them. And this, of course, is where I put into place the verified seller program, in that for someone to become verified, I have them send me a copy of their driver's license, okay, an unredacted copy of their driver's license, also an unredacted copy of their profile page from the Vacation Club website. And the profile page must list their owner number, their status level, their address, their phone number, their email address, and the email that they communicate to me with must match what is on that Vacation Club profile page. And the address on their driver's license must also match the address listed with Marriott. And with that, at least having that information, we know who they are. We have their address, we have their phone number, we have their email. So if there is something, shady happening with one of my verified sellers, we can at least, provide that information. So, you can serve them with papers. So once again, it's not required for people to become a verified seller, but for those that want to be, I mean, it's a minimal cost. It provides peace of mind to many others there. And then, most transactions are successful in that case. So that's the high level overview of, Vacation Point Exchange. It really is just a bulletin board site, and, it's essentially funded by the users.
Steve, I want to tell you, I remember when you first put that site up, and it was really a small scale. And I remember using it in the early days, and it works fine. But you do have to have a certain amount of trust in whoever you're dealing with, because you've got to give them your information for them to put points in, and and how the money exchanges. So I was fortunate because the guy said, "Hey, when I put the points in your account, send me a check." All right. I don't think everybody does it that way. All right. So, but I think it's nice to see that it's grown a lot, and it's been a big help for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's great to use. Personally, I always try and use my points because that's where I find the greatest value. I mean, if I purchased 1,000 points from the developer, I also purchased 1,000 points resale, and for me to recover some of that cost, paying the developer, my best value is using my points. As a very last resort, I'll rent my points out, and I ran into that, end of last year, beginning of this year, where I just happened to have too many points, and so I rented out I think 6,000 points this year, which was not something I wanted to do, but because of what I have, and 3 small children, the number of vacation days have shrunk considerably.
Yeah, it's definitely a great resource. I've actually used it a few times. I've never rented out points, but I've rented points a few times from people on there, just essentially kind of sometimes just for 1 or 2 nights. So definitely a great resource to have. So thanks for putting that together.
Well, see, that's another thing too. For a long time, I only had that 1 week at Coalina. So having the option of being in the club, all right, and being able to rent additional points, because a lot of times you might only want a few extra nights. It was a cheaper deal than having to get a few days with Marriott.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I share with people sometimes, if you own a week and if you lock off, that's another thing. You can make your 2 weeks out of your 1 week, all right, and then you go ahead and you add a few extra points. I mean, you can stay for quite a while, all right, during the summer. Like, I'm an educator, so I have summers pretty much off, and so hey, I'm looking to stay. With 1 week, I could stay 3 or 4 weeks if I wanted to do some extra points. I don't know if stay that long with 1 week. I didn't do that, but it's possible to do that.
Yeah.
One sidebar as well is that, there's always a lot of discussion on TUG, on Facebook, on other sites about, hey, I've got my week. I've never enrolled my week, and I'm proud that I've never enrolled my week. And, this is where people don't necessarily understand all the flexibility that, the Destination Club system offers, and that you can enroll your week. Yes, you'll pay the extra, $200, $245 if you're chairman. And you're like, well, what does that get me? I'm never going to use points. Well, I'm never going to trade my week in for points. Well, what you now have is that ability to rent these points, to rent out points from someone else, where you can, get those extra days. And so now at this point, if you're at a sales presentation, this almost negates the need to purchase points, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you're enrolled, you have that account where you can rent points from other owners and have those points transferred to your account and be in control. Yes, you are subject to the trust factor of, sending someone money, but there are some established renters out there that do high levels of points, and those individuals represent some large owners. And so, I mean, if you're looking for a cheap way or inexpensive way to dip your toes into the point system, enroll your week, especially while we have the free offers to have those weeks enrolled.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's check out the next question here. This one was kind of talking back to the skim when we were talking about the skim. That no other program seems to have a skim. Marriott seems to be like one of the only ones. Hilton and Wyndham don't seem to have a skim, and I think those programs, though, they may have a skim, but it's just in another form, right? I don't know those programs too much, but I think they do have some fees associated with making reservations and stuff like that. I don't know if we have any other people in here, but with my limited knowledge of those, so I think sometimes you just kind of look at the balances, right? These other programs may not have a point skim, but you're paying that skim maybe in reservation fees or something like that. And if I'm wrong, definitely correct me there on that.
No, that's correct, Jeremy. They have a number of other fees that they're charging. I know reservations is one of them.
Maybe cancellation fees, change fees.
Yes, they do. Because I looked at that too.
Yeah. Whereas with Marriott, I mean, you can reserve, you can cancel, you can change. the only restrictions really you have if you cancel is within that 60-day period, and you get holding account points, right? But there's really no fees across the board. There's no fee to trade in interval. There's no fee for your interval account. So as long as you're trading Marriott to Marriott, right? So it's just definitely something to consider when you're kind of looking across.
Or Marriott to Vistana now.
Yeah, that's true. Even definitely. We actually did a trade Marriott to Vistana and had no exchange fee. Let's see what else we got here. Sean, I'm not sure if Frank's looking for you here. Says he's down there. Maybe look over your balcony. You'll see him.
Yeah, he knows what room I'm in. Come on down, Frank.
You probably asked that a little while ago. It's been almost half an hour. We're a long ways back here. Let's get this speeding up here.
Okay.
Suggestions. Okay, this one might be a good one for the Aruba owners out there. And Todd, I know any suggestions from the panel about using the studio lock-off from Aruba, trade with interval, or rent through Red Week?
Yeah, we lock off our Aruba week every year, and we deposit it to interval, and we trade it back to Surf Club, and we usually end up taking our 2-bedroom Oceanside Gold Week and ended up with two bedrooms. What you give up there is you give up choice of view, but we can either have extended family go with us or take 2 vacations. Surf Club is unique in that the gold season is really long there. It starts in May and goes to early December, and so it covers the whole summer. It covers even a cooler period of time. So it's we like the gold season there. So that's my advice. The only thing that Interval instituted 2 years ago maybe is they charge a fee for a larger unit now. So if you want to go from an upgrade fee. If you want to go from a studio to a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, you're going to pay more. It's very difficult to get a 3-bedroom there through Interval just because they have so few 3-bedrooms. But I'd say go Interval. I think you're going to have a lot of competition renting it through Red Week. So I think that's your best value.
Yeah, and I mean studios. I mean they may be even a kind of a tough thing to rent anyway, aren't they? I mean it's equivalent of a hotel room. So
right.
It's kind of a tough thing to rent anyway. So I would agree. We've traded quite often either a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom from even Orlando into a 2-bedroom in Aruba. And I mean, the key there is you need to be flexible. We travel off season or shoulder season, right? So we've been pretty successful with that. We've been to the Surf Club at least twice, I believe. We've been to Aruba 3 times and the Surf Club twice. So definitely something to look at there. If you're wanting to go to Aruba or even somewhere else, you can quite often trade that studio for a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom at other places. So I think, in my opinion, I agree. I think Interval's the way to go. Let's see. Barry is asking about, seems to have gone kind of quiet, but there was some speculation a little while back about maybe another owner tier higher than chairman. So I don't know if anybody's heard anything more about that. And then Andy asked, well, what would they even call it, right? Can there be anything higher than chairman? The CEO package, chairman and executive officer? I don't know. I really haven't heard any more about that. And I really like Barry's saying, it hasn't really been talked about too much. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that.
Well, I still think that they'll roll something out. I mean, with Marriott, it's constant marketing. I mean, that's how you bring revenue in, is to engage your consumer and to find a way to get them to buy more. And so this may be an opportune time to do that, in that they can start tying new sales with this new level. It is also a chance for them to, thin out the ranks too, in that for some that are having financial difficulty and selling off points, selling off weeks to reduce maintenance fees, it's going to drop them from the roles of presidential, chairman, and other levels. So, having gone through some acquisitions, with my employment, those plans always continue to move forward because they've already put the work in. There's already sunk costs that they've absorbed, and it doesn't really harm them to roll out something new.
Yep, for sure.
I think it makes a lot of sense to have a level above chairman, because so many of the owners, like Grand Residence and Ritz, are so well above the 15,000 point thresholds. It makes a lot of sense. But where there's lack of urgency is, I think at the chairman level, I read at one point that it was only about 5% of the owners. I think they've generally had a philosophy of trying to move people that were more in the middle of the curve up to executive or up to presidential, that there was more money in that. But I would look to this fall, because I heard from a legal standpoint that the Vistana acquisition is coming close to 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think legally they weren't allowed to do anything dramatic, the types of things we're hoping for, until those 24 months come to pass. So maybe in the late fall, we'll see something and there'll be a restructuring. And obviously, selfishly, I'd like them to grandfather me in, even if the number for chairman goes above 15,000, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yep, for sure. Okay, this is I think kind of going back to Todd talking about the credit card for Marriott. The Chase Reserve is a good choice for single card. Allows multiple transfer and users, options, hotels. Plus, you can purchase with points airlines tickets, which still earn. So, Todd, I don't know if you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve or not.
Yeah, we do have the Chase Sapphire Reserve, and we do use that aside from the Marriott Bonvoy card and Amex Platinum. Those are the three basic ones that we use for travel. I like the Amex Platinum for the lounge access it gives, and a couple other benefits throughout the year. And CSR almost overlaps those, and we're considering giving up one now because just not using them this year, and the annual fees are pretty high on those two. But yeah, anything you could transfer to Bonvoy, and the two airlines we fly are Southwest and American, so CSR fits right in there.
Okay. So we had some thoughts here about offering maybe a special post-enrollment of post-2010 weeks. This question came up on the last live stream as well, and Greg kind of touched on that one. We are coming up on the 10th anniversary, right, of the Destinations Club program. There was maybe some hope there, some thoughts there that they would allow post-enrollment of those post-2010 resale purchases. So I'm not sure. Greg was kind of the impression that they would certainly offer something there, maybe with a steeper fee than they offered previously. But anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, after seeing that advertisement where they were kind of doing the same thing they've done in the other summers, I'm not encouraged by it. Where they still want you to, what is it, 5,500 points overall?
Yeah.
So I don't see that. The other thing too is, we're talking about, perhaps people enrolling, having another tier. Hey, maybe they will, Stephen, but I think that with the amount of money that keeps being charged for the number of points, it's getting extremely expensive. What is it, almost $15 a point now? So, they're definitely marketing toward a specific group, and I gather they're looking at a group who's, fairly upper middle class. All right, because man, it's expensive, and Jeremy, with you having those the weeks that you have, normal weeks that are affordable, and that's the only way you can go to Hawaii, because if you had to do it with points,
no chance.
It's not happening.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're going to have to do something that's going to be able to incentivize, people in order to really, really continue to start investing all that money into these points.
Yep. All right, let's get through these. We're way behind. Okay, so somebody here, I think this is Carlita. You were talking about this earlier. They have points in a holding account that will expire in December. If they book something within 60 days and canceling it, will they then expire in 2021 or 2020? I think it was Carlita, or maybe somebody else was talking about this.
2021.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of, we touched on that. That was a kind of a trick to get around that, right? Because they're extending those cancellations now within that time period. So it's definitely something to. I know there's some information on TUG and in the Marriott forum about that, so definitely check that out as well. Okay, so let's see here.
Well, does the person? I was going to ask if that person understand what the answer was that we was given.
Okay.
Say what was that again, Charles?
Just to make sure that person understood, because the way we answered it. So. Charles Wilson, 51, what we were saying was that if you do make a reservation, all right, and you cancel that reservation within 60 days, you will get an extension, all right, to use it up until December of 2021. I just wanted to make sure that he heard it because we weren't clear on it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. So moving on here, yeah, Barry was responding to our comment here about how where the even the European airlines are leaving everything to the last minute to cancel. Barry mentioning here, we're talking about that international owner's fee. As you correct, we have to pay the international fee on all 11 of the weeks in every region Marriott Vacation operates. It's excessive. So yeah, you have a big
That is
fee.
excessive.
Yeah, on every week. I'm gonna mute Sean here for a second. Okay. So let's see here. We'll bring Sean back online. Hey, we have Sean has a guest here. It looks like.
Hi, Steve. Hello, Steve.
His guest probably can't hear us though, can he? Because he doesn't have headphones.
No, he doesn't have the headphones, but we've got Frank 808 here.
Frank 808, the guy that practically lives at Coalina, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a little late.
Hey, Frank. I actually met Frank back, I think it was December 2017 at Coalina. We were there in December 2017 and met him down outside the, what do you call it, the marketplace. Let's try and get through some of these questions. Andy's also mentioning they have the VAT in Spain, so that makes Europe even more expensive. M. Pritchard, we're recent Marriott Vacation Club owners. Should we be concerned? Do you have links for new owners? So I think maybe some suggestions there is read up in the Marriott forum on TUG. There's a lot of great information in there. Marriott's website's not too bad, but they don't really have a lot of learning the tips and tricks, right? That you can definitely get off of.
Yeah, I think strategy is the big thing you pick up from TUG as a new owner. How to maximize your benefits.
Yeah, definitely. Here's one here. This was me. I put this out there. Hey, if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button down below. Definitely helps the video get pushed out to more people that are researching timeshare and Marriott timeshare as well. See here, we got another question. I have purchased directly from Marriott. Will a fee and restrictions? How is it good to buy resale? I'm not sure. So with the restrictions on resale purchases, so if you're buying resale today, obviously you can't trade for Marriott Destination Club points, right? Unless you take advantage of one of those enrollment offers that requires a big, expensive investment of Destination Club points. So it's definitely something you got to take into consideration, right? If you want that flexibility, you need to look into resale points or a hybrid package or buying directly from Marriott if you want that flexibility to work within the program. But if you're okay with an incredible savings, there's some Marriott weeks out there that are incredible. If you're going to be going to the same resort every year, certainly doesn't hurt to buy at the resort or buy resale,
And you can still use Infill International if you buy a resale.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's yeah.
So
exactly.
It's not a bad deal.
Yep, for sure. Don Friedman, Meyer Steve, for having all this data on hand, right? Having talking about his increases in maintenance fees since 2006. Let me see here. How many sites here? Many sites are peddling bundles now to shift a second resale week when you purchase another week, a bigger purchase, but some are very valued. So this is talking again about those hybrid weeks. So I think there's definitely value in a hybrid week, and Marriott is kind of structured there with how they treat resale point purchases, and they have what we call those junk fees, right? You're literally talking at least, what is it? Is it three points per dollar now, just in additional junk fees if you buy a resale contract? So they've kind of bundled their hybrid packages to be competitive with resale points now, just because they've loaded. Some may even consider unfairly loaded resale points with fees. But I think some people are also now noticing. We've seen some people mentioning on on the forum and even posting to rightoffirstrefusal.net. Some points sales going through right of first refusal for less than $1 a point. So you're talking $4 per point, a little bit more than $4 per point to purchase a resale destination club points now. So if you're looking to get points through right of first refusal, now's probably the time to do it, because I don't think Marriott's really looking to exercise anything, because they're probably not. I mean, right now their sales centers are closed, so they're not even able to sell anything.
Yeah, well, if Marriott is giving you the option to choose whatever resale week you want, then that's a really good deal. If you get them to do that, because that was significant in my purchase. At first, they offered Desert Springs, all right, and then they offered, some other week in addition to, St. Kitts, whatever. But then when they said, hey, you can choose whatever week you wanted, I was like, oh, okay, let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I went down to see what was on continental US that had the most points. All right, so if they give you that option, and you can get a lot more value. And what I did was, when I picked that up, it brought my the basic points. It brought it down to like $5 and something per point, for purchase. So that is a great deal, especially if you get what you want.
Yep.
I think if you leverage off of Steven's spreadsheet, you start looking at points, and then what are the maintenance fees associated with those points? Because you're looking at you're also looking at what if you're strictly looking for points, what's your lowest buy-in cost at the same time as lowest average maintenance fee per point.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
exactly right.
Yeah, you want to make sure you pair it with the right. You want to make sure you pair those two together, right? So you're not buying something that has a very high maintenance fee to point ratio, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really where the long-term ownership costs are, is in the maintenance fees.
Yes.
So here's another question about. And we kind of talked on this. Does the group see resale bargains as a result of the current situation? I mean, I think we're gonna have to let that play out. I think that's going to be more kind of based on the overall economy long term, right, than just the actual virus. I mean, if there's a huge influx of people trying to sell their weeks, and I think we'll see that more at the end of the year once those maintenance. I mean, people right now aren't even thinking about maintenance fee bills, right? They're just thinking about how am I going to use the weeks that I got that I've already paid for. Once those maintenance fee bills start rolling out, we may see an influx of weeks to the market, and if Marriott isn't there to try and swoop them up, then I mean, anything can happen, I guess.
Well, I would also add too that for existing weeks that are currently for sale, that I think as a buyer you have a little bit more bargaining power in that there's not a flood of offers coming in. I mean, first off, with timeshares, there's not a lot of offers to begin with, and so with this situation where someone may already be financially strapped, they may just take whatever offer they can get right now. The only exception to that would be for, high value locations where they can easily rent them out. So there were some weeks in Maui that I was looking at where it was I think it was like a week 30 week fixed unit, and I was looking at an offer, but it's like, if I can't get my dollar amount, I'll just go ahead and continue to rent them out year after year, and they'll still make a profit over maintenance fees. So it really just depends on the week and the location.
Yep. Okay. Next up here, we have a question for Todd. What would be a good price range to pay for 330,000 Bonvoy points? So I think you probably earn a lot of yours from business travel, right? So
I do, and actually, I saw that question come in, so I looked up a couple of things while we were waiting it to come up. And first, I just want to say you're not allowed to buy Bonvoy points. So if somebody's selling them to you, you're really not. I mean, it's really against the terms and conditions to buy them. However, I'll tell you a couple other things. You can only somebody can only transfer out of their account 100,000 Bonvoy points per year. You can receive 500,000 from multiple sources, but you can only get 100,000 from one particular account. So those are some hurdles you'd have to get over, even if you wanted to buy them anyway. Marriott would value those points if you wanted to buy them at about $4,100. They sell 50,000 points for $625. a straight up value for points, there's a lot of debate over those. I mean, some people value them at a penny a point just for hotel stays, things like that. I value them a lot higher because of how we leverage them into airline tickets. However, those are airline tickets we probably wouldn't be able to afford to buy. So, is there a real value there? So I don't know if I've answered that question fairly or not, but, it's like buying airline miles. You're not allowed to buy and sell those, although there's a market for them. And if you get caught, you do have some trouble. So.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks, David, for the question. Here's a question about what's been the group's experience with RCI exchanges and their customer service on the phone. I don't know that anybody really here has ever traded through RCI, right? There's only a few resorts that even trade through RCI. Some of the older Hilton Head Island properties, I think all of the Palms
Desert
properties in
Springs.
Orlando. Yeah, Desert Springs, the first Desert Springs, and I think even Cypress Harbor. So there's a limited number of resorts. And I think probably the number of owners that actually trade through there is probably pretty low. Stephen here says that he never uses RCI, and we don't either. We've never used that at all. We can't even trade through RCI. Frank here said that Jeremy's right about Hilton Grand Vacation Club. You have to pay exchange fee and guest certificates, also a minimum of 3 nights booking. So yeah, Marriott actually they do have some regional, night minimums, maybe in certain places, certain locations. People have noticed it. It's not really advertised. But, so that's kind of the trade-offs. You're going to pay a fee, or you're going to pay with a little a point skim, right? Let's see. Vacation Forever. They forgot about our live stream. They're busy smoking baby back ribs. Sounds good. We all invited over. Let's see here. Let's go back down here. Looks like we're catching up here a little bit. I just lost the chat here. Okay, here we go. So here Barry's talking about he's actually purchased some resale weeks that he had enrolled for a reasonable cash fee, but he doesn't want to have to buy additional points to enroll them. So kind of that's the offers right now, right? That if you buy additional points, or they have those offers every year, and I think there's a new one out now that was just posted about a week or so ago. Certainly. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so Chip Plitt says, discuss escapes and the puck trick. Anybody have any thoughts on that? I don't know. I can explain what the puck trick is. This goes back to a guy, we actually don't see him on the forums anymore. His name was Puckman FL. So he lived in Florida. I think he lived near Tampa. And he kind of invented this trick where if you have a reservation that you've made potentially a year out, or 13 months out, or 10 months out, or whenever you were able to make it, and then you get into I think it's, executive and above, or presidential and above, where you get that 30% discount on points.
Right.
You cancel your reservation, and you have them remake the reservation using the new points. So I don't know, Dan, if you've had any experience with this. Have you ever done that? Has anybody on the live stream done that?
Yeah, I was successful last year. I wanted to go to Aruba during Easter because we were traveling with some teachers, and I was able to change over my whole 12-night stay to get my 60 days or less, 30% less points discount. And the tricky thing was I didn't want to switch rooms. So it took about 5 or 6 maneuvers to do it. And I wanted to keep the point consumption down. And every single day we were with garden view, which is what we wanted. So we saved a ton over, more preferable views. And we saved a ton over what I had booked 6 and 8 months earlier. But I do my searches one day at a time, and I piecemeal trips like that together. And I actually did it twice. I did it once outside the 60-day window, and then I did it a second time inside the 60-day window, and probably saved 2,000 destination points total. And I just treat it like a game. It's probably something that a lot of people wouldn't have the patience for, but I would let the wife know that we're one step closer to it, and we kind of get a kick out of it because I have the time to be able to do that.
So
Yeah.
isn't it Dan? Isn't it a bit of a gamble to some degree because
It is.
you could lose your reservation in
It depends
trying to
on
get that
what's
other
available.
one?
It
You know
depends
what
on
I did? I booked what I could, and then I only canceled after I booked it. So it's kind of a modified puck trick. I
So you
didn't
made
take
the
any
reservation
risk.
first, and then once you had what you needed, you went ahead and canceled the other reservations.
Yeah, and customer service was great. Sometimes I'd have to explain that I've got this 4-night stay, and I just booked 3 nights, so you can cancel 3 of the 4 nights, and they were very kind and they accommodated me.
Okay.
So I might have had to wipe out that final night with another transaction a few days later, but I was successful. And it was interesting because we had people coming and going. So I had one garden view that I needed a 2-bedroom for 10 of the nights, but I only needed a studio for the final day, and I needed a 1-bedroom for the first night. And we were just sidestepping within that same unit. We never really had to move, but we'd have to close doors and lock them off.
Okay. Yeah.
So it took a lot of time, but it was worth it.
Yeah. I think the only caveat of that is any points that you're canceling and getting back are going into that holding account, right, of 60 days. So you don't have
Right,
that.
but again, I pulled them from the future year,
Okay.
which reminds me that when you're using my strategy of eating up a lot of your points from next year, and you want to get trip insurance, you need trip insurance for this year and next year.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're buying that insurance through Marriott,
I buy it through Marriott, and I always use dollars, and I don't use points because that's a better exchange.
mm-hmm. Yep.
one other thing, a modification to the puck trick right now, just because of COVID-19, because of the 120-day, the 120-day reusage for points that have been, forfeited, and a lot of people now I'm hearing, for those that have made reservations with regular points, when you're 60 days out, or once you hit the 120-day mark, to then make your reservation again with your holding points that are now subject to the 120 days. So that way, those points that you aren't losing those additional points, and you can reuse those points that you actually had to cancel previously, if that makes sense.
It does. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Looks like we can go and get ribs anytime. There we go. Okay. Someone here has a comment. Warren Hannigan, interval resorts are nowhere close to Marriott. So I think you're talking about quality there. And I think in our experience, we've actually had some good success. We've only traded outside of Marriott maybe once or twice, but you got something you kind of got to look at. If where you want to go doesn't have any Marriott resorts, we went to Ocean 2 Resort in Barbados a couple of years ago, and we had a great time. The resort wasn't what you would find at a Marriott. It was a small property on the south coast of Barbados, but the resort, the room was fine. Just wasn't maybe not as high end as a Marriott, but it's just something you got to consider when you're taking those trade-offs if you're trading through Interval.
Yeah, we trade outside of Marriott a lot, and Interval has the rating system. We look for any property that has the blue flame next to it, and we have found them to be very similar to Marriott's, particularly in Mexico, the Cancun, Riviera Maya area, and Cabo San Lucas. You just have to avoid the ones that have the plus with them as well, and mandatory all-inclusive.
Yeah, and I think Mexico is kind of like I think in a lot of cases you're going to find a lot of high-end resorts there, right? When you're looking at Mexico on Interval, as long as you see that little blue flame, or even the gold pineapple is pretty good. Most Marriott resorts, if not all of them, there might only be a few that aren't that have that gold pineapple or the blue flame. That's I'm not sure what they call those levels anymore, but for sure.
Well, I have a reservation for the Grand Lux over in Puerto Vallarta. And I got bad news yesterday because Southwest canceled my flight. So I've got to figure out another way. I got to figure out another way to get there.
Yeah, a lot of those, all those Vedanta properties. Those are high end properties, right? They're
with high end fees.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
But if
that's
you can
true.
trade into them, right? I mean,
Yes.
they're always they
yeah.
always seem to be out there.
I had a bonus week that Marriott gave me, so I
Okay.
just used that, and I'm hoping that it's going to be doable.
Yep. Looks like we're caught
Another,
up in the chat.
another suggestion for the group: when you're on vacation, very often we will go to the interval site and see what the interval properties are in the area, and we think it's fun to check them out. This February we were in Sandals, so it wasn't a Marriott usage, but we like to go to Sandals in even number of years. And we went over to a place called Bay Gardens in St. Lucia, and it looked pretty much up to Marriott standards. So I'm going to definitely consider that one in the future for a trade. So take advantage of your proximity and check out the neighboring properties in interval, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised a lot of times.
Okay. Good information. Definitely, yeah. It's a good tip to check out those other properties in the area when you're traveling, because you may learn that it's not anything like you'd want, or hey, maybe it's perfect, right? Let's see here. I think this is one we've kind of talked about earlier. If Marriott will consider offering that enrollment option. So after the stream's over, definitely, Karen, kind of go back and take a look there. We've talked about that here a couple times. And then Barry here, he sadly there's no trip insurance option available for European residents, right? So Marriott makes that option available, but then they never. It's not usually available now to non-U.S. residents. Sandy VAC is commenting here. So she's actually platinum with Wyndham and elite with Hilton Grand Vacation Club. So there's no reservation fees when they say 7 nights there. So definitely a benefit if you are a high level owner in those systems. You save on that skim, so it kind of removes that skim altogether on their side. Okay, so here's a good question for Sean. What are you allowed to do at Coalina since you're there now? What are they allowing you guys to do other than staying in your room,
okay, right? Well, until yesterday, it was pretty much you could get on the grass area. The pool's closed, the hot tub's closed, the gym's closed, the longboards is closed. They furloughed the front desk staff last week, so there's only one manager on duty at all times. Until yesterday, the lagoons were closed, the beach walk was closed, the golf course is closed, which has been fine. I've been walking it just about every day. I think I'm up to 29 days in a row of walking it. But yesterday, the governor or the mayor here, I believe in Oahu, had a mandate to open up some parks. So today they actually opened up the lagoon, so that I don't really see anybody out there now.
No.
Up the beach walk, and they opened up the lagoons for swimming from dusk to dawn, or dawn to dusk, and so we will get access now. Frank actually talked to Frank yesterday, and he went snorkeling out there and said he's never seen it so clear in the years he's been out there. He says it's unbelievable because the water hasn't been touched in over a month.
Yeah, so all that sand is usually stirred up by people swimming and all that, right? It's usually, yeah. I mean, we actually snorkeled there. I don't know if we snorkeled in 2007 or one other trip, or 2017 or another trip before that. But yeah, it's really hard to see with all the sediment being stirred up constantly, right?
Yeah, and then right now I believe we're probably at 5 or 6 rooms out of the 546 here. And again, you're just not gonna you'll get some local residents like Frank, and I think we had another local resident that actually checked in either yesterday or the day before. But with the 14-day quarantine, no one's coming. I mean, it's travel's down 99% from last year, and you're probably it's probably 20 flights a day with maybe 500 people on those flights. And what those flights are mostly doing is carrying cargo. So it's until they lift the 14-day quarantine, which we don't know when that's going to be. There's not much going to happen here.
Yeah, certainly. there's no on-site restaurants even open like for carryout or anything like that?
No. You can Roy's and then the markets up at the village. You can get the pizza takeaway, but most of those restaurants are even closed. But Roy's is doing takeaway, and the pizza place is doing takeaway. We've rented a car a couple of times on site. They've got an enterprise rent a car, so they just come and bring you the keys and maybe cars on site. And then we've gone to Costco, Walmart, and Safeway just a couple of times to stock up, and we're cooking in the room every night.
Okay. And so your options are really limited then, it sounds like, right? For
Correct.
food, either eat or the few places that are still open.
It's a beautiful place to social distance. I mean, there's been a couple of days where we've not seen or been around anybody other than passing somebody walking on the golf course.
Yeah. And here somebody mentioned that they thought they heard that the quarantine was extended to May 31st. I'm not sure if you guys heard that or.
Hey, Frank, is the quarantine extended to May 31st? May 31st.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard that yesterday. Watched the news conference. Wasn't very happy about it. I do have my Maui weeks beginning, May 31st. Been talking with my wife where I may be the only one going out there, and I'll just do my work from my room in the balcony and just stay holed up in the room while she stays home with the kids. So hopefully that will change. I mean, this is what we look forward to every year, but hopefully things will change for the better.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Okay, let's see here. We had a couple of people had to run, and actually we've been on here an hour and a half already. Man, that the time flies, doesn't it? Had to run. Thanks for joining us, Andy. He's probably gone already, but thanks for joining us. And it looks like we've caught up on everything. So I don't know if anybody wants to kind of have some final thoughts. Anything we didn't talk about that you guys wanted to talk about?
One comment that I'll make that's I think great for the timeshare industry on a whole is it forces you to make a budget, and you've got to pay those dues. And I had a failed business right after the Great Recession, but we still had semblances of a normal life because I still had 3 quality weeks vacation. I wasn't about to cut loose my ownerships, and they were great things to look forward to at a period of time when I was closing down an office and having to pay the IRS and doing a lot of pleasant things. We still traveled better than most Americans do because we had this budget. So I know going into the year, I've got $7,000 or $8,000 worth of experiences per year to look forward to, and I think it's one of the reasons why we're so glad that we got involved with Marriott back in 1995.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it kind of forces you to travel, right?
Yeah, I agree with
good times and
I agree with Dan as well. I mean, I'm very happy, very fortunate with my purchases. And, I tell my wife that if worst comes to worst and I were to lose my job, I said, we'll go back to the U.S. and we'll just live in a Marriott, until things get better, because we can always, book within 60 days, live in studios and 1-bedrooms on the East Coast and have enough points to basically stay 365 days a year in a Marriott timeshare.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Here was a comment that Sandy had, I think, for Steve or for Stephen. Hey, or maybe instead of arriving on May 31st, maybe you just need to change your flight to arrive June 1st. You won't have that. I don't know how the quarantine will work if you arrive before, but it ends while you're there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we'll make a decision probably by middle of May. That 14 days prior. So whether or not we can still deposit into Interval. We may be limited to the 59 days at that point. But yeah, I think at that point, I mean, it's we're going all in that we know that we'll either lose the weeks completely, or they'll go into a limited usage with Interval.
Yeah, I know when Aruba shut down and stopped all commercial flights, they didn't really have a quarantine. They just weren't letting anybody in. Interval actually stopped accepting Aruba weeks as a deposits for a while.
There's some good ones out there for Coalina right now.
Yeah, I think definitely that was the issue with I just heard we mentioned about they quit accepting Aruba weeks. I mean, basically when Aruba said that they were closed to new arrivals, right? They basically quit taking them, and then for a period of time they quit taking any Marriotts, right? Because Marriott was closed through, what was it, the 17th or something like that of May. They decided to stop taking everything. So, and then that's kind of where they came in. Marriott came in and said, okay, well, we'll offer you like a limited accommodation certificate. So,
Well, I'm very disappointed because heck, I was looking forward to going to Hilton Head. I had never been to Hilton Head, and I had a spot, in June for Grand Ocean, and I was like, oh man, what's going on? And so I canceled it before the 60 days because I wanted to have my same flexibility with my points.
mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden, I looked at July. And July was like all booked. And what's interesting is watching the reservation patterns, because at one time, South Carolina, all of those resorts were free. I would say like in March, people started giving up their reservations, like myself. And you looked at the calendar, and it was all green, meaning that the reservations available all month of June. And then, but July was still kind of floating out there. Well, now all of a sudden, if you go and you look, June is now all booked again.
Mm.
All right. And then same thing with July. So what I was able to start seeing some July openings. So what I did was there was an opening at Grand Ocean in July. I think it was July the 19th. And there were some others, a bunch of dates open. So I said, oh, well, let me see if I can grab this. Maybe something will happen. It gives me a little more time. So I made the reservation. Then all of a sudden, boom, I look at July for Grand Ocean again. They're all booked up again. So now when you look at June and July, they're all booked. So people are itching, to get going on a vacation.
Yeah, they're making the reservations, right?
Yep.
Whether they'll be able to use them is another question, right? But they're making, and I think the same thing might be happening for other travel as well. But I think timeshare a little bit more so because people have that time already paid for, right? And here's somebody who said that they were supposed to be in Hilton Head today. Sorry, Dawn. I know how I feel the pain. Here was a question that we missed early on. I asked Brian to re-ask the question. Many people having unused points to bank this year. Any thoughts on the best use of Explorer Club options for third home, or maybe even rental options? We're not heavy users of points, so we don't really use those Explorer Club options. I'm not sure if anybody out there uses those too much or not, but I mean, if it's between letting them expire, right? If they're going to expire, or there's some type of Explorer Club option that you can use, definitely using them for an Explorer Club or an Explorer package is probably the way to go. Renting them out is another option, but I think it's going to be a challenging year to rent points. But if you can recoup some of your maintenance fee to some degree, that may be the way to go.
Yeah, some people use the points for resort credits, is what I understand.
Yeah, people can do that too.
Yeah, so looking at all the other options for Explorer or for resort credits or for the travel insurance, Marriott seems to put a value of 25 to 30 cents per point. So as long as you go into that knowing that if you have pure trust points at 65, 68 cents a point, you're only getting anywhere between 25 to 30 cents in value. As long as you're okay with that, that's an option. However, in this situation, I would continue to try and use your points, next year, and then for next year's points, bank those at the very last moment, so that way you're not restricting yourself, or if you are, you're restricting yourself in a very simple manner.
Yeah, so you can just keep kind of banking those points forward as long as you need to kind of use up that excess that you may have from this year, right?
Yeah. That's correct. And I would say maybe like even a Colette tour in 2021 might be in the books then, because some of those are very pricey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, somebody was able to deposit there. Yeah, I know as far as July, they were still accepting deposits for Aruba, but I know in that time period, once some people had reported once they put that block on new visitors to Aruba, they Interval basically, Marriott was telling people, hey, go ahead and deposit it. And then Interval was coming back and saying, no, we can't take the deposit, right? So they had a bit of a disconnect there at one point in time.
Yeah, I think it was mostly mid-March, April, and into May they were rejecting those weeks, but I'm not entirely sure of the period of time.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Let's, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this up. I think we had a pretty good live stream. We had a lot of questions in the chat. So anybody else have anything that they want to talk about here before we start to sign off? If not, I just want to remind people, we will probably be doing some more of these live streams in the future. I kind of have some thoughts on maybe some destination-specific live streams, other systems, whether it be Wyndham, whether it be Hilton. So if you want to be reminded of them, check out TUG, but also be sure to subscribe down below. And also there's like a little notification bell. If you subscribe, hit that notification bell. Even if you missed the notices or posts in TUG, you'll be reminded through your device, through YouTube, about them when we come online. So usually about a half an hour before a live stream, you'll get a notification that says, hey, there's going to be a live stream, and you'll be notified of it. So hit subscribe, hit that notification bell, set it to say you want all notifications, and then hopefully you won't miss anything. So anything else? Sandy says, hey, great information.
Jeremy, if I could, one comment.
Sure.
I have found the values at Third Home to be pretty good, but it's full weeks. Villas of Distinction I found to be extraordinarily pricey.
Okay.
Kind of like what Steven said, about 25 cents per point. Generally places they're a little more fancy than I would want to indulge in. I wouldn't want to give up the equivalent of a week to just stay at one night at this posh place.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that if you were going to use the destination points in another way and you were kind of backed into a corner, I remember one in particular was along the panhandle of Florida, and it was 2 bedrooms. It was a penthouse view, and it would have been for under 4,000 destination points in a platinum season. So you can find some good things there, and some are within driving distance of your home. Like there's a few in Long Island that I could take advantage of, but they are for a full traditional 7-day stay. But with those, you have to remember that there's just one of each. So once it's gone
Mm-hmm.
for that week.
Yep. Yeah. So definitely something to consider, right? If you have some points to use up. All right. I guess we'll go ahead and just thank everybody Thank everybody who joined, and definitely everybody who asked the questions in the live chat. It was very helpful. Gave us a lot of information to talk about, and it was a lot of great information. Hopefully everybody found this useful. Again, just kind of remind, if you liked it, give it a thumbs up down below. It'll help this video get out to other people. And I also include in the video description kind of the profile of everybody, and also links to TUG there as well. So so hope everybody had a great time, and we'll see you all later.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.